So we'll be watching to see what happens in the next few months. It's very possible that if we do see changes to bail reform, they'll be tucked into the state budget. That's due at the end of March. And staying now with the state budget, Governor Kathy Hochul has her eye on some big tech investments this year. For one, she wants to invest $1.6 billion into broadband. If you already have broadband, you probably don't know that thousands of New Yorkers still don't have access to reliable high-speed internet. And we talked about this on the show before. A lot of this has to do with infrastructure and cost. So to see how Hochul's budget would impact that and more, I spoke this week with Adam Kovakovich from the Chamber of Progress, a coalition from the U.S. tech industry. Adam, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. So we're talking about tech in the state budget and tech in New York this year. I want to talk to you about broadband. So most of the state does have access to broadband or high-speed internet, but there are still thousands of New Yorkers that don't have it. The governor is proposing $1.6 billion in new spending on broadband expansion. How far will that get us to closing the digital divide here?
Well, I think it gets New York pretty far. It's a pretty significant investment. And frankly, I think the pandemic kind of laid bare the importance of broadband because you had sort of digital haves and have-nots. Some people were able to work from home, do school from home pretty seamlessly. Others, because they didn't have broadband connection, had to resort to things like, going to park in the library of parking lot of a public library and use the Wi-Fi connection there. And I think all of that highlighted how having broadband at home can make the difference between keeping up and falling behind. So, as you said, the governor's proposal includes a significant amount of money, more than $1 billion, and that's split between municipal grants for municipalities that want to build out their own broadband networks, subsidies for low-income users, a whole initiative around broadband availability maps to make clear to consumers what their options are, and interestingly also includes some streamlined regulations for making fiber deployment easier for the companies that want to build out and deploy more broadband. Makes all of that easier. So all of that's pretty significant.
So that's good news on the infrastructure side. I'm wondering on the other side of this, so we can get we can get it built out the infrastructure wise, we can get these companies out to people, but there's still that barrier of cost for a lot of people. They just can't afford it. So hey, I wanted to pick your brain. Do you have any ideas on how we get those internet prices lower to get more people connected and more integrated into this high-speed internet that we have in most areas of the state now?
Well, again, I think that's why it's significant that that the governor's plan includes the subsidy for lower income users, because you're absolutely right that just because the bill invests in deployment and getting broadband to areas where it may not already exist doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be affordable. And I also think that's pretty important because one of the things we've seen, interestingly enough, is that the pandemic has also changed the way that cities and states approach economic development and attracting jobs. Every state, New York included, would like to attract more tech jobs. More and more tech companies are allowing employees to work from anywhere. And so communities upstate, for example, can attract tech workers simply by competing on quality of life and amenities. But broadband is probably the most important of those, right? You can't stay connected to Zoom calls, remote software engineering projects, even customer support functions without a great connection. And I think that's why, in some ways, this investment could be as transformative as landing a big new factory, right? Just sort of the old way of doing economic development.
I want to ask you about something that has been popping up in upstate New York specifically. So we've seen crypto mining facilities pop up in places like right outside of Ithaca, up in the North Country. And you know, they're popping up more and more as we see time go on. Do you think that this is a permanent thing, or is it just a passing fad? Are we going to see crypto mining facilities just pop up everywhere across New York State?
Well, I think back up a second and look at cryptocurrency. And, you know, I know some legislators are reacting to what they're seeing happening upstate on the power side by proposing what would amount to an outright ban on certain cryptocurrencies in New York State. I think that would be a mistake. The fact is, we're really at the beginning of just understanding how cryptocurrency as a tool can give people access to financial systems, particularly for people who maybe haven't had access to traditional financial systems before. There's always a danger that if you crack down now, what you could do is you could solidify the advantage of the speculators who were in cryptocurrency 5 years ago and deny, you know, the ordinary people who are just now discovering and benefiting from crypto. Now, all of that said, we shouldn't give crypto a free pass when it comes to energy use or the environment. You've already seen, I think, many newer cryptocurrencies take a much less energy intensive form of mining. So I think the objective here for the legislature should be to react to this in a way that encourages crypto as an industry, makes New York a crypto hub, and encourages the industry to move forward over time to more energy friendly or energy efficiency friendly mechanisms, just as we've done with other industries. We've done that in other industries, plenty of other industries, rather than cut them off altogether.
How do we do that? How do we make these more energy efficient? Is it just about, instead of pulling from the grid, or I know one facility has its own natural gas power generation. Is it just having these facilities run on renewable energies? How do we get to a place where we have crypto while we're both protecting the climate?
Yeah, the fact is we've done this in other industries, so we shouldn't treat it as if it's a novel thing. We've done this for dry cleaners, we've done this for traditional manufacturing, we've done this across the board. So I think it's very possible. It just requires not reacting to cryptocurrency with a ban it kind of posture, right? Which is instead to better it. We should always try to better it to make sure that we're channeling the good from the new technology and trying to reduce the negative consequences of the technology. And I think it's very doable.
All right, Adam Kovacevic, looking very forward to that conversation. It's going to be a really interesting tech year for the budget. So we'll talk to you soon. Adam Kovacevic from the Chamber of Progress. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.